I think midwives many times don't necessarily decide to be midwives. I think we become sensitive to babies and sensitive to other women since we're children, since we are little girls. And I can say that from my own experience because I was always fascinated by babies, and since I was a child I would look at a pregnant woman and I just had to go and put my face and my hands on her belly and just go like that. It was a fascination of life. I would be, as a child, sitting on the couch, and then the cats would come and sit on my lap and I would caress them, and oh, the babies of a female cat would start being born on my lap. And I remember feeling such gratitude, such feeling of honor that this cat chose my lap to, you know, give birth. And I remember as a child thinking, how interesting, you know, there are 6 or 7 people in the living room, but she came to me. And as a child I didn't know that would lead me to become a midwife, but later in my life I realized, of course, it was the beginning of it, because I felt love and respect and admiration for life and for birth, and they felt it. As the years went by and I became a midwife, and I organized conferences for midwives, getting together, you know, 300 traditional midwives in Mexico with, you know, other people coming from other countries, becoming, you know, well, an international reunion of midwives where for the first time traditional midwives would find themselves feeling like there was a place for them in the world. Like it was actually a whole movement of humanization of birth, of birth with dignity and with warmth. And I did once ask a big question to a big auditorium of, you know, 300 midwives. How did most of you come to become midwives? And I asked if they had dreamt about birth as a calling. And about half of the auditorium said, yes, I was called to be a midwife through dreaming. And I was quite in shock because I had this same experience. When I was 20, I started dreaming about births every night. And it was every night a different birth, a different woman. And I was dreaming very vivid images and situations of birth where I had to solve maybe a cord that was, you know, around the baby's neck. Maybe the cord would prolapse and I had to, you know, maneuver. Some situations I had never seen in real life, but I was being faced with in my dreams. And of course I would wake up in the morning, you know, almost wet with amniotic fluid, you know, from the dream, and I had to think, well, did I solve that situation correctly? Could I have done something better? So of course that led me to read and to ask questions and to dive into the world of midwifery. And later on I realized many midwives in the world are called by life to be midwives. In Mexico, women always gave birth accompanied by women, and gave birth at home and gave birth drinking hot chocolate as a means of becoming warm inside and being nourished. And in indigenous Mexico, the chocolate is the food for the gods, and the birthing woman, you know, drinks that as if she was a goddess of life. And many women still drink that hot chocolate with cinnamon and with pepper and you know, heating herbs to help her in labor. And even though in modern times women are being lost to the medical viewpoint of birth, they are of course losing a lot of the control and a lot of the you know, the knowledge of the inner capacity to give birth, you know, because they give their power away to so-called professionals or people who supposedly know better about birth. And even then in Mexico, women still feel a deep connection to the tradition. many times they will follow postpartum care in a traditional way. And as it is, since hospitals are not really supplying the best care possible because there are not enough doctors, the economy is low, the women are put into rooms with 17 other birthing women. Women are realizing that perhaps more and more the old ways were very good ways, that the grandmothers gave birth at home for perhaps more reason than being poor, that maybe they did get very good care from midwives. And slowly there is a growing movement of consciousness that is telling them, listen to your inside, what it is that you need. Respect your own way of giving birth and find people who can accompany you in that. So the midwifery is perhaps not very fast, but steadily growing again, and the women are relearning that they are capable and that they have the strength and the full capacity to give birth. So I think one of the strong things we need to do in Mexico is to help new women, young women, to become midwives and to teach them the ways of the older midwives, so they can actually be there for the new generations of women who do want a good birth, who do want to be fully in charge of their own experience and to have a family-oriented birth experience where they can feel respected and they can find their own way of birthing. There's real lack of education for midwives. We don't have official midwifery schools. We don't have a tradition of midwives. Most people, when they hear I'm a midwife, they think, what? Isn't that part of the past? Is not a concept that is being entertained now. But in the rural areas, a midwife is still a midwife, and everybody knows what her job is, and everybody respects. Some states in Mexico are very conscious that they need to battle maternal and neonatal mortality, and they are coming to recognize that midwives have a very strong place to play in that prevention. It is still very new. Most midwives work independently. We do not have legislation for midwifery. It means that midwifery is not legalized, but it's not illegal either. It's simply illegal. It exists, and there's no rules or regulations for midwifery, which is a good thing for midwives, because you have much more capacity to make decisions. But also, of course, if something didn't go exactly as planned, you're on your own. Women should realize that just by being women, they have the perfection inside of themselves, and if they want to become pregnant and they want to become mothers, they should trust that perfection, that inherent knowledge of their own bodies and souls, to be able to to become pregnant and give birth full of strength and grace and discovering her own way. So not to be afraid, to realize that they're going to have the best experience of their lives. And that generosity of heart that comes with deciding to become a mother is probably the greatest source of passion and strength and growth that she will ever encounter in her own life.